I don't think the real big explosions happened yet in project management. I think that's yet to come. I think if we look at project management, there are three main areas that we focus on, and we don't formally recognise this. We don't really formally have a framework to recognise this. But those three elements are: one, methods and tools; secondly, the people side; and thirdly, the organisational support aspects. We've been following various methods and tools for managing projects for many, many years, hundreds if not thousands of years, and we just evolved the methodologies and the standards. In my view, we have too many standards for project management. The other area is the people side. It's about understanding that teams outperform individuals and that teams provide the building blocks from which organisations get work done. So, do all the different project management players and actors know their roles and responsibilities when they're working in a project team and when they're supporting a project team doing an activity for a company? Do we know or does the organisation know what competencies are required for those different actors and players? Is there a career path where different project managers can expand on their experience and skill set to take on board more risky enterprises for the organisation they're working for? Is there a curriculum that helps develop project managers, training them and coaching them? So the people side aspect is an important aspect that we've probably been focusing on now, or industry has been focusing on now since the late 60s. The last area is an area that has had attention, I believe, as a real focus only for the last 10, 20 years maximum, perhaps 15. And that's the area of organisational support. Whilst we might have a list of all of our projects, or a company has a list of all their projects, does the company know what's number one priority, what's number 51 in terms of priorities? Do we compare the projects like for like? Do we understand how those projects should be selected to meet the organisation's goals and strategies? Does senior management know their role in selecting projects and prioritising projects? And if need be, killing projects that aren't performing as we originally thought? Does senior management understand what the resource capacity the organisation has to meet those projects that we've decided we must select? A project is a piece of work that a company or an enterprise has decided it wants to undertake, wants to do, to meet usually a goal that helps achieve the strategy or the vision the organisation has. But the organisation needs to, first of all, make a business decision as to whether to go ahead with that piece of work. So that should be a business case, which looks at the benefits in both tangible and intangible ways, as well as the risks and the costs associated with producing that piece of work. And an organisation usually produces a business case to say, yes, this piece of work is required. Once that decision has been made, we need to empower someone to actually do that piece of work, usually a project or a program manager. And we empower that project or program manager through a document we call the project charter. And it's a contract between the organisation and the project manager. And it's the project manager's responsibility to interpret what the organisation requires of them, and they capture that in this simple document called the project charter. That empowers the project manager and visibly recognises the project in the organisation, so that the program manager can now go and get resources from across different departments and different areas of the organisation, formulate them into a project team, and then plan the work that needs to be executed to achieve the results that the company wants. We need to deliver to the plan, execute the plan, deliver to the plan certain deliverables, and we also need to ensure, or the company needs to ensure, that work is then transitioned into an operational or day-to-day, more routine way of managing that piece of work, and that the work is reviewed, and if need be, lessons are learned to ensure that we're more efficient at doing similar pieces of work again in the future. I think here we're talking about the main industry sectors of banking, financial services, oil and gas, manufacturing, engineering type activities. And while every solution will be customized for those individual companies and industry sectors, there are common trends and issues and challenges that each of those sectors and companies actually faces. For example, does each organisation have provide a very clear definition of the work that they actually want to achieve? Or do we tend to just start things, or companies start pieces of work, and then find that because we haven't done enough preparation, we then have to go back and make changes and rectification, and the piece of work takes far longer and uses far more resources than we originally thought were required. One of the issues there is that we do not spend enough time planning. We do not look at our work. We do not plan the work down to the level of detail that we need to. We do not have enough performance measurement systems in place, whereby, for example, our functional managers are measured in terms of whether they supply the resources to the plan that was agreed to, whether they keep those resources on those project teams, and whether the performance of the project team member is actually then incorporated into their overall review of their performance, because they effectively have two hats on, a functional hat and a project hat. We've already discussed in this interview portfolio management. Do we know how many projects or how much work we have, the amount of resources that work takes, and do we have a picture whereby we can look at the resource capacity we have in the organisation to accomplish that work? Attitudes we find are common in a lot of organisations with similar issues. One of those attitudes is for people to think that it's quicker to do something myself than actually empowering others to do the work. Teams always outperform individuals. We get more done by empowering other people to do work than we do ourselves. So an attitude exists where we will fight fires and we will be very reactive. We're fighting fires all the time, and we're not empowering and look at things and planning things in a proper way. Accountability or ownership. We don't just want people to fulfill a process. We want them to have a real sense of ownership and accountability for doing work that they've been empowered to do. It's not a case of following a process and a procedure and making sure we've ticked the last piece of work. We need to have real ownership and pride in the work that we're doing and the achievements that we're making. I think really there's a couple of things that sum this up for me. One is, do we have projects from hell? Do projects from hell exist in our organisation? And those type of projects are projects that continuously consume resources, continuously give us problems, and we never ever seem to get to the end of them. And I think the best description I ever heard was from a senior manager in BAE Systems who said, are we in control of our projects as an organisation, or do our projects control what we do? Do the projects control our action? And that's a fundamental question I like all of our clients to answer. Do we feel in control of our work, or is our work controlling us?